History Talk with Smith Co. Hello and welcome back to History Talk, or if you're new here, welcome to History Talk. So today we're talking about the response of nationalists to the idea of partition. So Unionist resistance to Home Rule worried many sort of liberals. So, in 1912, for example, Lloyd George and Churchill had suggested that each counties in Ulster be allowed to vote on whether it wanted Home Rule or whether it would prefer to remain in the United Kingdom for a few more years. The idea was called county option. Redmond, however, turned it down. Like many nationalists, he hated the idea of partition. He had a speech in which he said, "Ireland is worse in one entity. There is one land. Our ideal in this moment is a self-governing Ireland. In the future, where all her sons and all races and creeds within her shores will bring their tribute, great or small, to the great total of national enterprise, national statesmanship, and national happiness." But by the autumn of 1913, the Liberals made it very clear that he had to choose, either agree to partition or give up the idea of Home Rule. As a result, secret talks between Carson and Redmond began in 1913 and continued into the summer of 1914. Now, the two sides soon accepted that there was only one way to avoid a civil war, and that was to exclude Ulster from Home Rule. But this comes along three very important questions. What exactly is meant by Ulster? What was to happen if you think about it like the excluded area? And how long would this exclusion last? You see, Ulster was, as a province thing, it contained 9 counties. And in the 1911 census, it showed that Ulster Protestants outnumbered Ulster Catholics by 891,000 to 691,000. And the map showed 2 communities were not spread evenly over the 9 counties. For example, 4 counties, Antrim, Down, Armagh and Derry, had a clear Protestant Unionist majority. But parts of those counties, such as Derry City, South Armagh and South Down, had local nationalist majorities. 3 counties, such as Donegal, Cavan and Monaghan, had very large Catholic nationalist majorities. Now, 2 counties, Tyrone and Fermanagh, were mostly evenly divided, though Catholics were in a small majority. Now, then comes the question of what was to happen to the excluded area. Redmond offered Carson Home Rule within Home Rule. This was a separate Belfast Parliament under the overall control over the Dublin Parliament. The Unionists, of course, turned that down. They wanted to remain under the direct rule of the Westminster Parliament. By 1914, this seemed like the most likely solution. Then there came the most important question was, how long would this exclusion last? Redmond offered to accept the transition period of 6 years. Carson rejected this. He wanted a permanent exclusion. By 1914, it seemed that they would not put any time on the exclusion. This suited both party leaders. Redmond could claim that it was a temporary arrangement, while Carson could claim that it was actually a permanent arrangement. Now, at the start, these were secret talks, so, people didn't know about them. But then, word about these secret talks leaks out. Up to then, most nationalists hadn't actually taken, much, idea of Unionist resistance in a serious manner. They believed that Carson and Craig were bluffing, and that they mocked the UVF when at first they drilled with wooden guns. So it was actually a sudden shock to them to sort of see this kind of, acceptance of a possible partition. So when they hear about Redmond talking about partition, there's a general feeling that something should be done about it, but no one was sure what it was that actually they should do. Obviously, this plays in the hands of the Republicanism groups such as the IRB. Now, the IRB are, at this time, they have almost disappeared. But following the decade, a small group of dedicated revolutionaries had been working to revive it. So 2 of them were Bummer Hobson and Sean McDermott. They were inspired by the cultural revival they at first then supported at the Griffin Sinn Féin, but then they grew disillusioned with his attitude to physical force, because obviously he didn't want to use physical force, he wanted to use politics. Now, in 1907, an old Republican, Tom Clark, returned to Ireland. To the younger men, he was a hero because he'd spent 15 years in an English jail for setting off bombs in Britain. He was on the IRB Supreme Council, and with his help, they took it over in 1912. Now, they then began to recruit young men. Some who joined them were more drawn to the republicanism by the cultural revival. However, others, by Redmond's acceptance of partition, were, well, they felt that, this was the only other option. So, one of their main sort of reasons why they would have joined would have been, of course, well, basically it would have been the situation which you have, whereby people are all the time they're brought into this thing, which I think is a bad idea. It is similar sort of to Nazi Germany, where the recruits you kind of have are coming from kind of suspect areas. So the one area obviously you have is which is the kind of Boy Scout style clubs that they set up, which is a bit dodgy. You do get you kind of, if you do look at it, you're thinking a bit like Hitler Youth. Just a bit dangerous to have this kind of idea of indoctrinating young people into a political ideal. It's just a bit dangerous and, a little bit suspect. You're gonna, begin to set off a few alarm bells there. But more than that, though, is that you've got these kind of people who they're not really in positions of power, but they are influential. So their words taken by groups of people as kind of a sign. So they're not able to actually force you to do anything. They're not able to, bet. They're not able to definitely, positively get people to do something simply by them saying do it. But they do have a possibility that they will do it. And that is one of those people, is Padraig Pearse. He previously backs up Redmond and Home Rule, but then he takes the IRB oath in 1913. Now, the thing is, the IRB's aim is to set up an armed rebellion against British rule. But of course, where are they going to find these men and guns? The Unionists have loads of men, and the Unionists also have loads of guns. Now, obviously, the IRB before this are, let's join the IRB. Why would you? Why would you want to risk being killed and, risk all this, risk losing any sort of face to the British, who, are essentially like, basically sort of like, oh yeah, I think we'll give you Home Rule, maybe. You don't want to annoy them that much. So obviously, if you do annoy them, they're not going to react very well. So you don't really want to go to the RB and go, I'm going to join you and I'm going to fight them. And if they do get annoyed, they might just go, no Home Rule for you at all. Yeah. But then, of course, this crisis over Home Rule gives them the answer. Because you see, in November 1913, an article appears in the Gaelic League paper. This is called The North Began. It was written by Owen MacNeill, one of the founders of the Gaelic League, and in it, MacNeill suggested that Nationalists form their own volunteers to put pressure on the British to keep their promise of Home Rule. Now, MacNeill's article was exactly what the IRB had been waiting for. A body of armed nationalists could provide them with the army they needed for a rebellion against, this British rule. And there's something better. The British could actually not technically stop them. They couldn't come in and just say, no, you can't do that, because they allowed Carlson and the UVF to do the exact same thing. Obviously, they seem to have mistaken one thing. The British are not fair. The British Army are not going to go, oh no, we didn't do it to the Unionists, so we won't do it to the Nationalists. There's a bit of a problem, of course, with the idea, which is, this is what they think, but of course, the British Army aren't known for being especially fair. They attack small countries, and when they attack other countries, they tend to not be, especially, they're not going to just be fair as fair. So obviously, saying, oh, they didn't stop the UVF, it's a problematic argument, because obviously the Irish people are going to be, annoyed by that, and obviously that's only going to benefit the IRB if they are, attacked and the UVF isn't. And obviously I guess that's something which, would help them if they were attacked, that they could go, well, you didn't do the UVF, so it's not like you're just not allowing this to happen, and that might slide support over to them. But at the end of the day, just because the UVF weren't stopped doesn't mean they wouldn't have stopped the IRB. Anyway, Hobson approaches MacNeill, and he suggests that he calls a meeting to discuss his idea. Now, that's what we were talking about in the next video. So all the sort of stuff we were talking about were this sort of idea and the founding of Comet Bomb. Then we also get to the whole idea of why exactly the UVF and the IRB were different, and why you shouldn't just say the UVF got away with it, why can't we? Because, as I said, logic a little flawed there. Anyway, if you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, that would help a great deal. And if you don't really want to, but you want to be helpful, you could do that too. Or viewing other videos, or as well as that's also helpful. Anyway, there should be a new video coming out relatively soon, and there are just loads of other videos available on the channel. So hopefully we'll see you back next time. And if we don't, and you don't view other content, both now and in the future, well, I guess we'll say bye forever then, and I guess enjoy the rest of your existence.